So last year, the ruling on search and monopoly in search is that Google basically maintained its monopoly through illegal means. So not that it created its monopoly illegally, but that it was maintaining it. These exclusivity agreements with Apple and others, so they pre-install Google's search as the running search engine behind things like Siri or Safari. So every time you type something into Safari, it's going right to Google to handle that search. So basically, the allegation was that it was cutting competitors out of the scale they needed for their own search engines to kind of climb up and compete against Google. So now we're having a hearing on the remedies and what to do about that particular issue.
So I must have missed this, but I mean, the court did find that Google has an illegal monopoly, right?
Right, as to search. That's right.
Wow. So what does the government want Google to do to fix this?
Yeah, so we're really looking at the government's position here as kind of an opening salvo for a negotiation of sorts with the court, right? So they're seeking a divestiture of Chrome, which we think is unlikely to happen, and they're also seeking for Google to scale back. They were seeking for Google to scale back its investments in AI. Companies like Anthropic, as part of this whole mess too, they've since walked back that position and are only seeking Google to kind of pre-authorize investments in AI companies going forward. So we don't think any of those things are probably likely to happen, but what is likely to happen here, though, is that these exclusivity agreements I just mentioned, they're going to have to do something about that. It's tough to say, hey, these are illegal, and then not address them in a remedies phase.
So I know this might be an insanely dumb question. Who's actually hurt by Google having a search monopoly?
Sure. So the consumers, but you'd also...
But are we?
Well, that's the judge is really focused on that point, Alex. And the judge, I think, has said, look, Google's a really good product, right? And they've built this from scratch. It's homegrown. And in a but-for world, with or without these exclusivity agreements, maybe companies like Apple use Google search anyway because it is this primarily good product. But the lack of competition here, the lack of a competitor kind of scale up like Bing or DuckDuckGo, could there be this viable alternative for consumers without Google search in place? And that's what we don't know. Are the consumers missing what could be there instead?
So at this trial,
Remember using Bing?
Yeah. They're still around. They're still around.
I know it.
Yeah.
Yep. So at this trial, is it Google arguing versus the government about which remedies they should do?
That's exactly right.
Why don't they just go sit in a room? Why do we need a courtroom?
So Google fought this really tough. They fought the ad tech case really, really strongly as well. So we're at this phase now where it's up to the judge. But again, the judge, I think, has been very cautious with this case. Is really, really cognizant of the precedent that exists in D.C. Circuit right now, from the Microsoft decision back in the 90s. I don't think he's going to go overboard here in terms of applying something that's kind of tailored really nicely to fit the actual allegations and not really, kneecap Google where it hasn't, necessarily done something illegally.
So what would happen on the derivative side? So in that Apple that really uses Google, are they going to lose money or do they make money? Because they don't have to pay Google.
Right. Yeah. In many ways, this is the larger issue. Google pays Apple $20 billion a year in regard to these kind of preloaded exclusivity
Google pays
agreements.
Apple. Okay.
You've got it. So Google, in many ways, or Apple, in many ways, might have more to lose here than Google, and I think that's really another issue that's part and parcel of the litigation.
Interesting.
What's the timing here?
So we're expecting a ruling on a remedy probably in August this year. The judge has been fairly good about keeping to a schedule that he's set forth for himself, and that's been the conversation around a particular remedy date. So,
okay, let's just play it forward. So if they had to divest Chrome, I know you said it wasn't likely, not your base case, but if it was something dramatic like that, how does that work? Is it its own company? Would someone else buy it? In which case, if Bing bought it, Microsoft bought it, wouldn't it be the same problem?
You're exactly right. And that's exactly the issue here, is that selling off Chrome as a browser, right, it doesn't necessarily solve the actual anti-competitive harm that's part of this litigation, right? So that's exactly why my colleague Jennifer Rhee and I are thinking that's not going to be a remedy we see here in this case. And I'll give Jennifer Rhee a plug. She's in the courtroom right now. We'll be updating absolutely on this litigation as it rolls out.